Hello, everybody. Welcome to JFIT, the Japan Forum of Innovation and Technology at UC San Diego. We are at the Japan Center at UC San Diego, and if you are new to our school, please realize that you can learn about our Masters of International Affairs with a Japan specialization, as well as programs of JFIT on our website, gps.ucsd.edu. We are running a webinar series of weekly events. Most of the time they're held on Tuesdays, and you can please find more information on JFIT, including also our newsflash on our website, jfit.ucsd.edu. The upcoming events before we go to today's topic are next Tuesday, the economy. The following week, we will talk about how to sustain entrepreneurship and innovation in this current time of crisis. We will then move on to the business reinvention of Japan, which is a new book that I wrote and we'll talk about with Stefan Haggard, our professor here at GPS. And this will be followed by Japan trade policies with Christina Davis from Harvard and Megumi Naoi from UC San Diego, two of the outstanding trade specialists on Japan in the United States. And after that, we'll talk about religion in the time of crisis, also with two outstanding scholars who write books about these topics. And with that, let me introduce today's special Japan Forum. It is special in many ways. We have two outstanding guests with us today, the Consul General of Japan in Los Angeles and the Honorary Consul of Japan in San Diego. And also, we're doing this together with the Asameshikai, which is our Japan-focused student group at GPS. And my co-moderator is Aram Gullum, who is the president of Asameshikai. And Aram, may I invite you to say a few words before we start our program today?
Yes, of course, Professor. And first, I'd like to start by reminding the audience to raise questions by filling in the chat section, not raising your hands, and have your videos off to preserve the internet connection. So good afternoon all. It is a real privilege to be here with the Honorary Consul General of San Diego, Ms. Kate Leonard, and the Consul General of Los Angeles, Mr. Akira Muto. My name is Aram Gullum, and I am the incoming president of Asameshikai, the Japan Focus Club at the School of Global Policy and Strategy. Asameshikai is an organization for grad students at GPS who have a keen interest in Japan's economy, politics, language, culture, and people. Our mission is to increase our collective knowledge of Japan and build a connection between our cultures. I hope that succeeding at this mission, we will help to maintain the strong bond between the US and Japan for generations to come. Over the next year, we hope to not only carry out this mission, but to also engage and build a relationship with the Japan community in the greater Southern California area. Muto-san and Ms. Leonard, I hope this is the first of many interactions between Asameshikai and yourselves. I thank you for being here and I look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aram. And we will hear more from you in the Q&A section when you will represent the student questions. And with that, let me introduce Kate Leonard, and it is my great pleasure to do so. And she will then take over the next steps of the program. Kate is the Honorary Consul of Japan in San Diego, which means she is our local helper when we need things, want to know things, or want to organize things that are related to Japan. She's also the international tax partner at Hutchinson and Bloodgood, which is one of San Diego's best and well-known tax and CPA consulting companies. Kate has also been a long-standing supporter of our school, GPS, from day one, and she is a core supporter of JFIT. So Kate, thank you for everything you have been doing with us and for us, and we're super excited to have you here today to introduce the Consul General. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ulrike. And good afternoon and good morning to my friends in Japan who are watching this webinar. You woke up early, it's 6 a.m. there. It's my great honor to introduce Consul General Muto. of the Los Angeles Council in Los Angeles, of course. He was born in New Delhi and graduated from the University of Tokyo. And right after graduation, joined the foreign ministry. He's had a very distinguished career. He's a Russian expert and has served as first the deputy director and later the director of the Russian division of the European affairs for the Japanese foreign ministry. He was also at the embassy of Japan in the Russian Federation. This is Consul General Muto's third posting to the US. He was at the embassy in Washington, DC, and later served as a Consul General in Boston. And last year, he was a visiting scholar at Stanford University and then came to Los Angeles to serve as our Consul General for this area. It's quite a large area. It extends from San Luis Obispo down to San Diego and all the way over into Arizona. And there are two honorary consuls who report to Consul General Muto, myself, and then Kelly Moore in Arizona. It's such a large area that we're here to serve in any way we can to assist Japanese nationals and to encourage the relationship, which is great, between Japan and the US. So again, it's my honor to introduce Akira Muto, the Consul General of Japan in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hello. Thank you, Kate, for the kind introduction. Well, we very much appreciate what you do in San Diego, helping us, helping people to understand the US-Japan relationship. So today I understand that the issue is about the coronavirus. So I'd like to share with you what our government is doing these days, because this is a kind of a joint war against our common enemy of the common coronavirus. And it's very important that we share our experience and lesson learned so that we can fight together in this war against the coronavirus. Do you want me to start? Okay, then let me start by introducing the numbers. I hope you can see this number. This is the number, cumulative numbers of the cases in Japan in comparison with the other countries. As of May the 14th, the accumulated numbers of cases in Japan is 16,000. When you compare the number of the cases per 10,000 population, Spain is around 50, United States is around 41, and Italy is 36, UK is 34, and Canada is around 20, and Japan is 1.27. This is the number of cases in comparison per 10,000 people. Now, I also would like to introduce the number of deaths in Japan. As of May the 14th, we have altogether 687 deaths in Japan, which if you compare the numbers per 100,000 populations among the major countries, United States is 15.3. New York City is, unfortunately, amounts to 209. And Spain 51, Italy 43, Korea 0.5, Germany 77.3, and Japan is 0.3. And this is not to boast that are low figures, but I'm very sorry for the whatever the numbers are. Very much sorry for the loss of the people. And I like to appreciate express my condolences to those people who lost their lives due to the coronavirus. With that numbers, let me share with you what we do in Japan. Now, I would like to mention today 3 things. First is the need for the unified command system, as well as a whole of government approach. It would be difficult to contain the diseases through individual state efforts, since there cannot be excluded the possibility of interstate transmission. So you would need a unified command system or a whole of government approach that would allow to introduce the unified measures across states. In case of Japan, we are taking a whole of government approach led by Prime Minister Abe, supported by the consultative committee of the experts. On April the 7th, Prime Minister Abe declared a state of emergency for 7 prefectures out of the 47 prefectures in Japan. Under the advice of the consultative committee, on the basis of unified criteria such as the accumulated number of cases, the pace of numbers doubling, as well as the ratio of unidentified routes for infection, where restrictive measures have been introduced in close coordination with respective prefectures, taking into account the regional specifics. Now, in mid-April, Prime Minister Abe expanded the emergency measures to cover all the 47 prefectures. And the goal is to reduce the social contact by 70 to 80%, whereby we intended to peak out soon. Now, the Japanese software company, a group, which is a subsidiary of the SoftBank, has developed new apps for location-based big data, utilizing the global positioning systems devices of the smartphones, which would allow to collect data on whereabouts of the critical mass, as well as to analyze the flows and the contacts frequency of the critical mass. Now, originally, the apps was designed to identify the whereabouts of the critical mass in need of support in case of natural disasters, with due respect to the privacy concerns. Now, according to these data, it seems that we got close to achieving the goal of reducing the social contacts by 70 to 80%. And due to the emergency measures, the numbers of new cases per day has dropped from 700 per day to 200 per day, recently less than 100. This week, the average newly confirmed cases was 87 per day. Also, the effective reproduction number, which is to mean the numbers of those contracted from one single person infected, has dropped below 1.0 from 2.6 in Tokyo in mid-March. Also, the pace of the numbers doubling have slowed down to 3.8 days from 2.3 days. So it seems that these measures, emergency measures, have started to take effect. Therefore, just yesterday, the Japanese government lifted the measures for 39 prefectures, where in many prefectures, the newly confirmed cases had been 0 for at least a week. So that leaves only 8 prefectures currently where the emergency measures are still upheld. Now, the second point I would like to raise is about the importance of the counter-cluster measures. Now, consistent counter-cluster measures are necessary to suppress the transmission and preempt the overshooting. Since once you allow the overshooting to take place, there would be no other means than to introduce drastic measures such as a lockdown, which would have a huge impact on the economy and the society. So the Japanese government strategy has been to pursue the containment of the diseases through the counter-cluster measures with a minimum effect on the society and economy. So we've been doing 3 things. First is the early detection of cluster through the regional offices of the health department and engage in the in-depth analysis of the cluster keeping the chains of the infection at a small scale through the modification behaviors of people. 3, controlling the spread in respective area through disease surveillance so as to end the chains there. Now, we consider that the counter-cluster measures have been effective in suppressing the transmission and avoiding the overshooting. And WHO also has appreciated that Japanese counter-cluster measures have been effective in suppressing the transmission. Now, our challenge is that since we have relied upon the labor-intensive manual contact tracing efforts, we would need to intensify the tracing capacity by increasing the number of health investigators, as well as the contact tracers, and also by complementing the manual tracing efforts by digital tracing technology through the use of ICT. Now, the third point I would like to raise is about the medical cure. Now, US and Japan have been engaged in the joint clinical test of the remdesivir, which has been developed by the Gilead, the pharmaceutical company in California. Japanese government have recently authorized and approved the remdesivir. Also, the Japanese pharmaceutical company, Fujifilm, and its subsidiary has developed its own experimental drug called Abigan, which has shown positive effects in some of the 3,000 cases applied. Now, Japanese government is to expand the stockpile of the Abigan by 3 times. We have already agreed to grant the Abigan with 43 countries. And we are open to engaging in the joint clinical testing of Abigan with other countries interested in. And I understand that the US FDA has already approved the testing of the Abigan at 3 hospitals in Massachusetts. We look forward to further collaboration with the United States as an extension of our bilateral collaboration in the area of health and scientific research. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Now, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Wonderful. So your presentation is very interesting, and I am very impressed with the statistics. I was looking at San Diego County death rates and infections. And in San Diego County alone, it's about 1/3 of all of Japan. We've had about 200 deaths and a little over 5,000 infections. So to hear that Japan has about 16,000 infections and only about less than 700 deaths is quite impressive. I'm wondering why Japan is not getting more coverage in their approach in the US media. We hear so much about Sweden, for example.
I'm not doing a good job.
Well, this is your chance. No, it is quite impressive. One of the questions that I'm getting now is about travel restrictions, and what are they, and what resources do people have to go to find out what the state of travel to Japan is at this point?
Yeah. As you know, we have introduced robust border measures, and that would definitely limit your entry on the trip to Japan.
Mhm.
But right now, we need to focus to suppress the spread of the virus in Japan. And as we succeed in doing this, and as things calm down, we will shift into the next step of relaxing the border measures we have introduced. But that will be incremental steps. We wouldn't shift all of a sudden to that stage, because as your situation calms down in Japan, you would also need to take into account the situation in other countries where the travelers come from. So the efforts needs to be mutual, and as both sides, calms down, then it would allow us to relax the border measures. And I think my hunch, or the information I'm getting at, is that we may introduce such categories as essential travelers and others. So relaxation of the border measure does not mean that we open it up all of a sudden, but start from very small sections of the travelers to expand it gradually. So it will take some time before we can open it up to all the people wanting to come to Japan. But that's the new reality that we have to take it.
Certainly, and that will have an impact, of course, on the tourism industry in Japan. So this is actually a question about Los Angeles. What is the situation at the consulate there in terms of, are people coming into work? Do you have limited hours? How are you handling it there in Los Angeles?
Yes, we limited the hours that we accept people coming to our office, so that we can issue the documents and issue visas. Although there's very few people these days that ask for the visa issued by our office. So we are opening, our opening hours are limited only during the morning, from 9:30 to 11:30.
And some of your people are working remotely?
Oh yes, so we now work in 2 shifts. So half of our staff come to the office, but the rest of the half stays at home, so that they can work from there.
And where are you right now? Is this your office?
Today is my turn. This week is my turn to come to the office. So I've been in the office this week, but next week I'll be staying at my residence.
Okay, and another question I had, which is really a long-term question. For years, there's been talk about decentralizing the government functions, removing some of them from Tokyo, just to ensure that the government can continue to function even if there's, we always think of earthquakes with Japan rather than pandemics. And now all of us in both countries have had experience with telecommuting. What do you think will be the long-term impact on how the government functions, the government positions?
Well, that's a good question, I think. I think in some way or another, they would have the impacts on the way we run the society in the long run, including the way the government runs the country. But I don't know whether this would lead to the decentralizations of the functions of and diversify the functions away from Tokyo or not. It's too early to say yet.
Sure, sure. Yeah, somewhat related to that question, I know that there's been concern about the villages and the rural areas being depopulated, and with telecommuting, they could be repopulated with appropriate infrastructure in terms of internet access. So any thoughts on people moving to the countryside?
Well, right now, the government is not encouraging people to move into the countryside from Tokyo, because the Tokyo is still the epicenter of the infection. So it wouldn't be wise to disperse the people from Tokyo to the countryside to bring in the infectious sources to the countryside. So government is disencouraging people to move out from Tokyo and to leave the countryside alone, you know.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. So in terms of, you have served at the embassy in Washington, D.C., and certainly have observed the U.S. government functions firsthand and the interaction between, in this particular pandemic, between the federal government and the state governments. Do you have any observations between how it's the same or how it differs in terms of the federal and prefectural interaction in Japan?
Yes, you know, it's very interesting in the way each society, respective society handles the situation in its own way.
Right.
In case of Japan, I would like to emphasize that the, you know, as I mentioned in my opening statements, that we have tried not to introduce lockdown, and the basic government policy is to contain the infections with the minimum effect on the society and the economy, which means that the first of all the measures taken by the government is based on the voluntary measures by the people. Our national legislation does not empower the government to introduce mandatory measures. So all the government is doing is asking for people's cooperation. In this regard, it is critically important that we raise awareness of the people and understanding on the part of people through education and information sharing, so that people will come to willingly accept the request made by the government. And it seems to me it strikes a big difference the way the people are behaving in Japan compared with the other country. People are willing to accept the request and self-restricting their behaviors, so that they would not contribute to spreading the virus. And while here in the United States, people go out to the beaches calling for the lifting the measures. In Japan, it's the other way around. People are blaming Japanese government that they are not doing enough. They are claiming for introducing more stringent measures, because they place the hygiene concerns and life concerns first than anything else. Also, I wanted to mention that the Japanese government has done everything to respect the civil rights of the people and avoid being too intrusive, excessively intrusive in the life of the people, to the life of the people. So as we introduce the digital tracing technology, we will need to walk a fine line between introducing stringent measures and protecting the anonymity of the users. And I think, there is no kind of fixed formula for this problem. Every society needs to find its own right balance between the respecting the civil rights and introducing stringent and effective measures to suppress the disease transmission. So I respect, every way that each country does in terms of fighting with the coronavirus.
So in your particular jurisdiction for the Los Angeles consulate and the Japanese nationals who live in your jurisdiction, what kind of questions are you getting and what kind of help do they need? And what are they concerned about?
Many of them ask me to what extent are the measures mandatory here in the United States. So I spent quite much of a time, in trying to make them understand that here in the United States, the measures are mandatory. They could be fined or punished if they not abide by the stay-home orders of the county. But that is not something what we are doing in Japan. So people doesn't seems to get the good understanding of how things work here in the United States.
And I imagine that you must have a student population too of Japanese students who are here who are now in a situation where they may have to be learning online and concerned about getting back to Japan. Do you have many of those sorts of situations?
Yes, some do. Yes, there are certain parents who have concerns about how their children can get the online education. And so some of them need to go back and forth in order to register their online system. But for that, they would need to be subject to the quarantine restrictions in Japan. So that makes them difficult to respond as much as they would hope to.
Certainly. So when was the last time that you were in Japan yourself?
I was back there half a year ago. Last summer, I was there.
Last summer. And how do you expect it to change the next time you're able to go back?
I would hope that we can go back to where we were at before the coronavirus. But I presume that wouldn't be the case. Suddenly there would be a new reality that we would need to embrace. So there would be changes as a new reality, like flocking together after dark in a closed space with many people would now be difficult. City center of Shinjuku or Shibuya or wherever,
What can the U.S. and California learn from Japan?
Well, we can learn both together, For example, I think the medical care is the area that we can work together. The hospitals in Massachusetts are already working with us together.
Mhm.
If the medical institutions in San Diego or in the LA area would be interested in further cooperation and addressing the virus, I think we can work together, in that area.
And that would be great. And I think we're all learning how to use these various methods of communication. I know Aram has some very interesting questions from students, so I'd like to turn it over to Aram to present you with some questions from students.
Sure, please.
Yes, hi, Muto-san. Nice to meet you. The first question comes from one of our Japan-focused students, a first year, and his name is Kyle Hurst, and I'm going to unmute him now. Oh, my apologies. All right, Kyle, you're on.
Yeah, we on. Hi, first off, thank you for being here today. My question was mainly, I guess, about the public transport in Japan. Japan, I'm sure, as we all know. Yeah, I feel. You guys want me to turn on the video? Yeah. So, can y'all see me? So, Japan, like as we all know, I guess, is a pretty public transport reliant country, I guess, right? There's a pretty developed network of trains and subways, especially in the more urban areas like Tokyo. Mm-hmm. I guess my question was like, what are the plans regarding like the main form of transportation in Japan, given that they're like a very obvious high density sort of disease vector for coronavirus?
Mm. Yeah, that's the something that we might need to change in terms of we run the public transportation system. But that's a very new area that I haven't even given thought of it yet. But definitely, we would need to keep the safety of the public transportation system, so that the public transportation system would not be the source of the infection. For that purposes, I understand that it is a kind of must that people wear the masks when they ride the public transportation systems. But other than that, I think there's ways that we will need to run the system like, keeping the hygiene quality of the system high by wiping every now and then. I think that's the new kind of reality and new things that we will need to introduce in keeping the system clean from the virus. Okay, Kyle, thank you for your question.
All right, Muto-san. So if I may, another question I have from another Japan-focused student is Seiya Uchinami, but he's not here. His child had to go to the doctor, unfortunately. He's okay. Let me take my video off. Apologies. So Seiya wants to know actually about the number of Japanese people here in California is decreasing. So how can we increase the number of Japanese people here and strengthen the bond that Japan has with California and the greater United States?
Well, I wouldn't say that the numbers of people in California are decreasing. I would say the number has stabilized. It is not increasing, but I agree that if not decreasing, the numbers have plateaued. I think, people in Japan have come to think that the relationship with Southern California have matured enough that they wouldn't need to invest more in California. Although we still are the number one investor nation in California, But my view is, on the contrary, I think we would need to invest more in Southern California as we head towards an economy with the sustainability issues addressed. So there, in that sustainability area, there's lots of things that Japanese can contribute to the life quality of the Southern California in terms of the clean air, clean water. Especially, I am talking with people, local people here, in terms of introducing the Japanese technology in the area of hydrogen. As Japan turns into the hydrogen society by 2030, hydrogen-powered society, my logic is that, argument is that by realizing the hydrogen-powered society together with Southern California, or California as a whole, that would allow us to expand the hydrogen-powered society across California, no, beyond California, across the United States. And that would allow the hydrogen-powered society to be expanded beyond the United States, as it had always been the case when Japanese business engaged in business in the United States. It starts from Southern California, expands to all the United States, and then go beyond the United States. So if we really want to make this happen, instead of doing by ourselves, I think we can do it together, and that would invite more investment from Japan to California, and naturally more people. And so I think one of the areas that you should be interested in, is the hydrogen-powered turbine, which we have started to introduce in Utah. The Mitsubishi Hitachi Power System has concluded a contract to turn the coal power system into the hydrogen power system. It starts from the mix of 30% hydrogen powering the turbine, but eventually the turbine will be powered by 100% hydrogen. And the technology is owned only by Japanese company, Mitsubishi and the Hitachi. So this is a unique technology that, and it's going to be 100% renewable.
Okay, just one more question on behalf of Asumishkai is actually from myself, and then I see the chat has a lot of questions filling up in it, so I'll get to it quick. So this is about you, Muto-san. How has your job changed because of this crisis as a person who has to meet a lot of people and promote good relations, and what new things have you learned about your job?
It's so frustrating that the diplomats cannot see people around, because that's the way we make differences. So it's like I'm kind of a caught in my back. But there's no way that I can risk the people's health. So I'm doing my job through the internet, like this I'm doing now. But still, it's good that we have this technology, thanks to Apple and the Facebook and the Google and others. So I appreciate the US technology that allow us to still communicate in this very strange circumstances.
Certainly. Thank you very much.
But still, no, I would like to add that, for diplomats, the body language is very, very important. So it's better for us to communicate in person, because that way I can learn from the body languages of the person I'm talking to and communicating with.
All right. Very good. That's kind of what I expected you might say. So I guess let's go to the chat. Professor Shada, did you want to address the questions in the chat?
Sure, thank you, Aaron. Well, you can also chime in. There's one set of questions, Muto-san, that's a little bit dicey maybe, which is actually on my mind. And that is, Japan's numbers are so great, right? In terms of containing. It's nothing is great right now, but comparatively very strong. And yet the approval rating of Prime Minister Abe is comparatively very low. And I think it has something to do with the Japanese way, the Japanese political system, where people are much stricter and maybe, expect more, or, I don't know. Can you explain a little bit what's going on there?
Yes, Professor Shadi. I completely agree with you. I think the way, not because I am the member of the government, but speaking frankly, I think the way the people rate the government's handling the virus is not fair. It's too strict. I think that has to do with the first the way we I think maybe the way we educate people and the way we share information with people is still not adequate. And I think we would need to do this kind of communications much more. Japanese government too shy about boasting the good results. So maybe we need to be more arrogant the way we share the state of facts outside our world. But I think as things come out more, as the situation comes down in Japan, I think that would be a good moment for us to speak out. And eventually, I think people will come to appreciate more fairly.
Great. Yeah, that would hopefully be the case. I mean, it's really quite amazing in comparison. We have some questions that are a little bit more about pastime and happiness. So let's maybe shift to that. When will baseball start again? And I'm not going to ask about the Olympics because we don't know, but baseball, that's coming up very soon. Are there plans? And this is, of course, a topic that the United States is now also really deeply looking into.
Well, first, I think I heard that the high school baseball this year, the Koshien, will be postponed, will be canceled for this season. So there's not going to be any Koshien school games this summer. It is a pity.
Yeah, I cannot imagine Japan without Koshien summer. That's really good. We have a number of questions on travel restrictions, holidays, fun. People want to do things. Like, so for instance, will Japanese citizens be allowed to vacation in Hawaii this summer? You know, and of course you don't know the yes or no answer to this, but what is your vision in terms of how we want to, you know, is there, are countries going to be different in terms of how strict they are with quarantines? Is it will it be more difficult to go into Japan or come out of Japan? You know, can Japanese citizens go back? Do they have to be quarantined? But you're getting a lot of questions here on sort of consular matters, and maybe I should also point out to our audience that you can ask the consulate directly on some of these matters. But can you give us your vision of, you know, best case scenario, worst case scenario? What are you preparing for?
As things calm down, well, that's the first thing, right? Without things not getting calmed down, there's no way that we can talk in a rosy manner. So on that assumption, as we come to discuss the relaxation of the border measures, my hope would be that considering importance of a bilateral relationship between Japan and the United States, I imagine that the United States needs to be one of our top priorities for relaxing the border measures. And we should be kind of, you know, that relaxation of the border measures needs to be mutual. So United States also needs to lower the level of the caution for Japanese travelers to enter in the United States, and Japan vice versa. So if that happens, I think we can lead, the two countries can lead the other countries to demonstrate how we open up the trades as well as the people traveling between the two countries. And also we can lead the other countries by engaging in the cure, medical cure for the diseases. That way, US and Japan can together, you know, show the, demonstrate the leadership in terms of how to open up the economy in years to come.
So Ian has a very complicated question. So let me ask on behalf of Ian, could you please address what conversations Prime Minister Abe and the MOFA, the Gaimusho, are having with the Trump administration about future relations with China?
Well, you know, did you ask what the problems, do you say?
What kind of conversations?
What kind of conversations?
Well, that's what Ian is asking, but if you'd rather talk about the vision, that would be fine too, I guess.
You know, well, we are talking on various things on China. Well, especially recently, we've been talking about the way we address Taiwan in WHO. Japan has been consistently supporting Taiwan to recover its observer status in WHO, because in addressing, you know, the virus issues, there shouldn't be any vacuum geographically, because once you allow the vacuum to take place, that would serve in favor of the virus. So, and what's more, Taiwan is the exemplary model in has been exemplary model in addressing the issue. So there's no reason why we should not recover the observer studies for the Taiwan, except one reason, which is China. China is against the recovery of the studies. So here, I think U.S. administration in Japan are on the same page in recovering Taiwan for the WHO. And we can learn more from Taiwan's experiences as it handled the virus in an excellent manner in the early stage. So let's Taiwan speak out in WHO. And Japan and US supporting Taiwan and addressing the issue together, all together, would be ideal in the near future.
Thank you very much. Let me look at the Honorary Consul Leonard. Do you have another question, or maybe Aaron, is there anything, this is your last chance to ask Muto-san a very difficult question that you might have on your minds?
Well, I am wondering about the discussions to shift the school year to match the academic school year in the U.S. and in other places, and just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, in Japan, as Kate, well, everything starts in spring, and the kind of the every functions are set in that financial cycle. So changing the school year, starting from the, for let's say September, as is the case with the United States and in Europe, would have a huge consequences in the Japanese society. So I think many people are very cautious about jumping at the that conclusion. Although there are certain, logics in moving the school year, delaying the school year now, since considering the gaps already have been created because of.
Right. Yeah, I'm also wondering if it might increase exchange students between the U.S. and Japan if the academic years were more aligned.
Right, that's right. Yeah. So there are things, if you think things in a positive way, there are things like this that might, push the reforms in Japan in a way that could not have had happened if there were not the cases of the virus. So let's see how people could be pushed in a new way of running the society.
It would certainly help our exchange programs with the University of Tokyo and other universities in Japan, including Waseda and Keio and Hitatsubashi, to align that a little bit more. But the complications are, as you say, they run very, very deep because it has something to do with hiring, the entire focus and the fiscal year and the government's fiscal year and all of these matters.
Yeah, the biggest problem is the employment. If the school years is going to shift, then the companies also need to shift their timing of the employment. And whether the companies, businesses would prefer that or not is a big hurdle.
Well, I imagine they're already impacted for this year with so much being closed. Well, Japan has a history of disasters and dealing successfully with them. So I think we can all learn much from Japan and how you've been handling the pandemic crisis.
On that positive note, unfortunately, it's time to part. Aaron, do you want to say a little bit at the very end before I make announcements and close up the session?
Yes, only that I'm very appreciative of both of your attendance. On behalf of us, Meshkai, we enjoyed this and we hope to communicate with you again in the future. So thank you again for coming. Nice to meet you.
Well, thank you. I look forward to meeting you in person someday.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Consul General, and thank you, Honorary Consul Leonard, for joining us today. If you missed the beginning of our webinar today, here is where you can find the future announcements and registration signups at jfit.ucsd.edu. Our upcoming event is next Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. California time. We will talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the Japanese economy. And I will have with me two of my best friends and longstanding colleagues in that field, Robbie Feldman from the Tokyo University of Science, as well as Takeo Hoshi, who of course was my colleague at GPS for more than 20 years. And he will come and join us through this route next Tuesday. And I hope you will join us too. Thank you, everybody, and stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.